At this point, you're probably wondering why I'm destroying this mountain bike dirt jump. It was built over 2 years ago and I hardly ever ride it, so it's time for an upgrade. My plan is simple, make it bigger. And to do that, I'm going to construct a huge wooden kicker that will launch riders high into the air.
I wanna fly, can you take me far away?
So this is the first step, pushing all this dirt into one big landing. I have the loose shape of the landing sorted. It's not going to be as tall as this and it'll end up being a little bit wider, but I'm going to leave it as is for now because the Savo, there's a 50% chance of a little bit of rain. That would be a bloody ripper because the entire property is extremely dry at the moment. If I can get a little bit of rain to soak into this dirt, it's going to make it so much easier to shape how I need it and also pack it down so it's hard enough to ride on. Smells like rain. As you can probably see, we had a little bit of rain last night, which is great, but the dirt pile barely got wet. See how dry it is underneath? So I'm forced to play God and make my own rain. And lucky for me, there's still a bit of water left in the dam. And the weight of the tractor does a great job of packing down the dirt. It saves me a lot of time, but there is still a hell of a lot to be done by hand.
Sometimes all I think about is you, late nights in the middle of June.
Yes, the landing is complete, and honestly, it's a lot bigger than I was originally planning, which means I'm going to need to build a bigger kicker. Before I design the kicker, I want to visualize the size and shape of it. That's looking pretty great. It's giving me a rough idea of the shape, the size, and the angles of it. I've jotted those down, so I'm going to take it home to my computer and we'll see if I can perfect it a bit more. I fired up the laptop and began to play with the designs. I'd worked out that the kicker was going to be 3.6 meters long and 1.6 meters tall, with an angle of 47 degrees at the lip, which meant that the radius would be 4.85 meters or 16 feet, and that information will come in handy later. With the shape sorted, I then worked out how to place the wood and based the design on the pallet kicker I built in the previous video. Alright, all the plans are done and they are looking awesome. Now the next step is to get all the wood I need to build it. And I'll be doing something that I haven't done in a long time. I brought my chainsaw with me and I found a tree up here that has recently fallen over. Let's go check it out. It's a decent sized tree and I'm hoping to get all the wood I need from it, but it'll all depend on what it's like on the inside. I cut through the log, no worries, but then it fell into place and pinched the saw. No worries though, I've got my cant hook, so I should be able to just roll this log away. It looked like a pretty solid log, and when I rolled it over, this happened. Oh, look at that, it's debarking itself. Ripper. I was pretty stoked with this because debarking logs can be long and boring work. All right, the log's ready to go. Now it's time for the fun bit. This is my Granberg Alaskan Mill. It's a guide for your chainsaw that allows you to mill timber wherever the log falls. I didn't realise, but the log had a bit of a dip in it, which meant that the board has a slight curve. This is an easy fix using the easy rail system, and it's something that I should have done for the first cut. This will operate as a guide for the Alaskan mill to slide across, ensuring I get a nice and flat cut. When I took the time to set it up correctly, I had the second chunk of the log milled within the hour. I think that's enough wood for the structure, so now I've got to work out which piece goes where. Using the radius measurement from earlier, I'm able to trace the shape of the kicker into the dirt, and I can use it as a guide for the build. The original design was to have the curve built with 2 pieces, but I think that's going to waste a bit too much wood. So I decided to cut the wood in half and then use 3 pieces per curve. Using the same string from earlier, I attached a marker and drew what could only be described as a line drawn by a 5-year-old. Oh wow, the line's a little bit wonky, but it's not going to matter too much because I'm going to end up cutting it with a chainsaw, so it doesn't need to be like precisely accurate. And despite my kindergarten lines, the cuts actually turned out pretty decent. I've moved inside, so I've got this flat area to work with, which means I should be able to get a little bit more accurate when putting this thing together. Also, check out these wheels that I've got for it. They're like serious off-roading things, so I'll be using those later. This could be a mistake, but I changed the plan again and decided to make the kicker even taller. At the new height, I think it needs to be a bit steeper. I've just stood it up again, and now the takeoff is at about, around 50 degrees. That's better for this height, I reckon. Let's lock that in. Oh my God, that is massive. All right, I'm pumped with this. That's one side done. Now I just have to do the other side. Wow, this thing is an absolute monster. It's a bit wobbly, got to get those cross pieces in. That's solid, no more wobble. I built this out of eucalyptus, which is incredibly strong, but it's also incredibly heavy. So before I finish building it, I need to move it into place. And to do that, I'm using these wheelbarrow wheels. Oh, well, I'm not sure if this is gonna work. They need to be really strong. All right, that's the wheels on. Let's see if it works. That thing looks insane down there. Come check this out. All right, the wheels were a success, but now we've got a different problem. This thing is huge. I can't hit that. I don't know what I was thinking. Oh my God. Before I can even attempt to jump this thing, I need to mill the last section of tree for the riding surface. The jump is insane. It is definitely the biggest one I've ever built, and I love the raw finish to it with this natural wood. I'll be honest with you, it does scare the crap out of me, but because it's got the wheels on it, I can use the tractor and push it right up against the landing. And I built it with a built-in chicken bridge. Check this out. Slot that there. So with the built-in chicken bridge, when I push it right up against the landing, it acts as a tabletop, so there really shouldn't be anything to be scared about. This just makes the jump a whole lot more beginner-friendly and progressive, and it really allowed me to work on my skills, so I'm stoked with how well that works. It's just about time to hit the jump, but first, let's give away a Cutlaps t-shirt. Congratulations to Ian Olsen 9565 who left this great comment. If you want to win the t-shirt from this video, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Now, let's go hit that jump. I've got it set up in beginner mode at the moment, and it's looking pretty doable. I've also got a couple of friends that are about to arrive, and they're going to help me get some air. Let's do it. This is Oliver, here to show us noobs how it's done.
You hit
that is huge. So nice.
And this is his dad, Glenn.
It is looking a bit scary though, yeah. But I can't come here and not give it a crack, so he's been making it look a bit too easy. And it's not. It's not.
Unlike Oliver, Glenn and I have never hit a jump this big or steep before, so we'll be stoked if we can even clear it by the end of the session. Why do I do this to myself? This isn't what I had planned. Our first attempts were pretty kooky. I barely left the ground,
You got like 3 feet of air that time.
and Glenn nearly got ejected by sitting on his rear wheel.
We don't want that on the video.
But after a couple more attempts, we were feeling more comfortable and getting closer to our goal. Meanwhile, Oliver was seeing how big he could send it. That was huge. Towards the end of the session, Glenn went a little bit nose heavy, but he cleared it, and then went back and cleaned it up. Now it's my turn to just lay off the brakes and go for it. And it was done. That may not look like much, but for me, that was a huge progression session, and I can't wait to keep pushing my limits. If you enjoyed watching me build this kicker, then check out this video where I build this crazy corkscrew loop that you have to jump over the trail. I'll catch you legends in the next one.